Hello, everybody. I'm Randy Mills, your Sports History Now host, where we bring Kentucky's greatest sports memories alive, one story at a time. And today, I have such a special guest, someone who many term as the greatest high school basketball player ever produced from Kentucky's 12th region. Very much a basketball hotbed area of our state, and this is Tim Stevens. Thank you for being with us today, Tim.
My pleasure.
We're tickled to be with you, I'll tell you. A guy who scored 3,211 points in his high school career. He's the second all-time leading rebounder in the history of Kentucky high school basketball. 2,157 rebounds, just fascinating. And I'll share many other statistics as we go through a number of stories and get the inside scoop in terms of what drove Tim, his work ethic, and how he succeeded to the level in basketball that he did. But first off, in driving to Tim's home today, I'll be darned if we didn't pass Tim Stevens Road. About a mile and a half or two probably from where Tim lives now. Now, what's the significance of Tim Stevens Road?
Well, that happens to be where I was raised at. I grew up on that road, and I actually lived in 3 different houses on that road. And I think more than being well known, it's more to help 911 and that kind of stuff. But I was asked by some people that lived on that road if I mind if they named that road after me, and I said no, I'd be honored. So that's how that came about.
Well, that's really pretty cool. So let's take you back a little bit then. Like you said, you grew up on that road in 3 different homes. Tell us just a little bit about the influence of your parents in your early years, and I do believe you had an older brother who was also quite a significant figure in your life as well.
Absolutely. Well, my dad, down here when I was young, the coal mines were really the lifeblood of the economy in this area. And my dad worked down there at the mines. He was a welder, and he just instilled in me to always do your best. He was one of those guys that he wouldn't even hardly ever even take a vacation. If he would get a vacation, but he would usually work through it. And he would come home and wouldn't even come in the house. He'd go right down to the garden and start hoeing weeds out of the garden or burning brush or that kind of stuff. And that wasn't an anomaly. He'd done things like that every day. And I know he was raised in a family of 9. And he had a sister that had it's not leukemia, one of the breathing diseases that was prominent back then. The name of it's losing me right now. But he volunteered to up and take her in a pickup truck all the way out to Arizona where she could breathe better. He just put his life on hold for her when he was a young man. And this was after he came back from the Army. He just did a lot of things that I seen him put other people first. And he was always hard at work. The truck I'm talking about, he built out of wood a top and sides on that bed so they could keep their stuff in there and she could lay down. And just, hard work's just been a staple in my family. Definitely. I had a great aunt that had one arm and raised a big garden every year. Wasn't married. So my dad really was a great example for me, and that stuff just rubs off on you. If you watch your dad be lazy, you may grow up and be lazy. I don't know, but he had a great influence on me. And then you mentioned my brother. My brother was almost 11 years older than me, and of course he was an athlete. He played everything, and I was young, would get to go watch him play, and to be quite honest, he was my hero. I wanted to be just like him, and his interest in sports really rubbed off on me. And then he would take me aside a lot of times and get in my head and and give me some tidbits of wisdom, and then he would take me out there and just beat me to death on the basketball floor, and he'd get me out there in the backyard and throw knuckleballs at me that was dancing all over the place, and if I didn't catch it, it was my fault. I learned to not put the blame on anybody else. So those two figures as a young person really laid the groundwork for me to take the approach that I did when I got involved in sports.
Yeah, and then speaking about getting involved, some of your first memories of having a basketball in your hand, or did you have elementary school teams back then, or how did that kind of begin to happen when you were whatever age, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old?
We had probably 6 or so elementaries in our county, and each one had a team. I can remember trying out for the team when I was a 4th grader. I had my right arm broke. It was in a cast. And I made the team, but we never had any games, I didn't think, for a long time. And they were having games, but I was just oblivious to it, didn't realize it. And I remember after getting that cast off, and they told me we had a game that Monday night because we played on Mondays, and I was thrilled. I got to play in a game. We played 3 games, and then they told me the season was over. And I was saying, why are we just going to play 3 games all year long? And they said, no, we've been playing all year. You just got to play those 3 because you were in a cast. And so anyway, I started as a 4th grader and then played nonstop the rest of the time.
Yeah, and of course that was here in McCreary County.
Yeah, I went to a small elementary school called Revelo, and I remember when I was at UK, they would put in the press book, or when they introduced you over the mic, they'd give your hometown a lot of times, and not at a game, but at other things we'd be at. And they'd always say Stearns, Kentucky, because that was my mailing address. We lived in Revelo, but we got our mail in Stearns, and that was the address I'd given them. Well, that first time, man, one of those books came out, and I came home for the weekend. You can believe I took the ribbon from everybody. That's right. What are you doing telling them you're from Stearns? You're from Revelo, So when I went back up there, I talked to, I don't remember who it was, if it's Kaywood or Ralph or one of them. I said, you guys got to do me a favor and change that. Make sure that says Revelo on it.
Folks back home thought you were getting a little big for your britches and going for the big city of Stearns and not staying true to your roots of Revelo. Yeah. That's pretty good.
And now this, being Revelo, they've remapped the whole county. It's considered Stearns now. The full circle, I guess.
Well, let's get you on into 5th grade then. Well, maybe you got you a full basketball season then. Now, would that have been a 5th and 6th grade team combined, or just 5th?
Actually, we had an A and a B team, and it just depended on what team the coach puts you on. And so I played on the B team as a 5th grader, and then as a 6th grader on up, I played on the A team. Now, specific memories of those games, I don't have many.
Sure, yeah. But just not as much specific memories of the games, but were you starting to shoot the ball on your own a little more than other boys? Were you beginning to find a little dedication to basketball, or when did it kind of start to kick in that, hey, if I get after this thing a little bit, I might have some ability?
Well, to be honest with you, at that juncture, I wasn't mature enough to know if I had any ability, but I loved to shoot basketball. And I remember the first basket I ever shot at my home was just a coat hanger that I had bent and nailed up on a pine tree out there where I live. And of course you had to swish it or it'd bend it. And so I thought, well, I got to do better than this coat hanger. And I got my dad to buy me a goal, and cut out a piece of plywood and nailed it up on a pine tree and put that goal up. And I loved it. Believe it or not, even in 5th and 6th grade, before we walked to school, before I'd leave to go to school, I'd take a basketball out there and I'd make me 10 or 12 before I came back in and got my book, started walking to school. And I tell kids all the way up through when I quit even shooting any. There's something about that sound, that swish, that just has always inspired me, and I loved it. So I threw up every shot I could because I loved it, not because I thought I was good at it. Mm-hmm. And then by the time I got to be about an 8th grader, the high school coach at the time, the 8th grade team I played on was undefeated. We had a really good team, and I was scoring a lot. And he started bringing me over with the high school. And in those days, you really didn't, in girls basketball, girls would play varsity as a 7th grader. Right. My brother coached girls, but Coach Eckler was his name. He brought me over as an 8th grader, and I practiced with him. And then about the last half of the season, I played JV ball all year. And about the last half of the season, he started dressing me on the varsity, and I got a few minutes here and there on the varsity as an 8th grader. And so I kind of knew then if I can get some minutes now as an 8th grader, I'm going to do everything I can to reach my potential. And I guess my dedication to it was more for what maybe I could do than just the fact I loved basketball, although I still loved it just as much as I did.
Did you have a few special friends growing up that you played with, and that kind of maybe even encouraged you, or just some friends that went through middle school or high school with you or so?
I had, there were, in a small town like this, everybody knows about everybody. And when I would be in elementary school, there would be older boys that would get me to play with them, and we'd play every Sunday out of the grade school, and they were all time building me up. A lot of them were, and showed interest in me. I can remember a guy that became a dear friend of mine who passed away about 4 or 5 years ago, and he would come pick me up, and we'd go down to Oneida, Tennessee. He was out of school, and they would still play a lot of independent ball, but they would play pick up at night, and they would come get me and take me down there to play. And I don't know, I was fortunate that I had a lot of people around me that did take an interest in me. I had another friend who was a really good high school player here at McCreary, graduated in about '69. His mom and dad had a really nice basketball goal in their driveway. Well, I always walked out to the elementary school and played, but occasionally I would go down there. They invited me to come down there and shoot ball at their house. His dad was a barber, so I'd go get my hair cut. And it was about as far walking to their house in one direction as it was to go to the elementary school in another direction. And they kept that basketball goal up until I graduated from high school, just for me. And I wasn't even related to them, but we were just friends, and they were basketball fans and wonderful people. The guy's name was Darryl Denny. He was our baseball coach here at McCreary Central for many, many years. So I have a lot of fond memories of a lot of people, and everything I've ever done, I've always felt like those people were a part of everything that I've ever done.
Right. And now we go into your freshman year, and you start on the varsity.
Well, I didn't start the first game.
How'd that play out?
I didn't start the very first game. I remember we opened our season up with Shottville High School. That was one of the schools that went into Pulaski County's consolidation. And this is one of my I got 2 real vivid memories my freshman year, but a lot of other good memories too. But my coach called me up to sit by him. The game was going on, and I remember he leaned over and he said, Coach Eckler, he said, can you go in there and shoot over that zone? And my response was a meek, "I'll try." He said, "I didn't ask you if you'd try." I said, "Can you do it?" And I said, "Yeah, I can do it." And I entered the game. I don't remember if it was the first quarter or second quarter, but it was in the first half. And I took 7 jump shots the rest of that game, and I made all 7 of them. And the next game I started, and I started from then on. And then the other vivid memory about that team and that season, Monticello, of course I know you know the history of Monticello High School with Coach Harper.
Yes, indeed.
And they were always one of our biggest rivals, and we were in the same district. And they had beaten us that year by 23 on their floor. They had beaten us, I think, by 3 possibly in the Wayne County tournament at Christmas. And then we're playing them in the first round of the district. And we're down 40-39.
Win or go home, right? In first round of the district.
Yes. We were down 40-39. And I got a great pass from a junior guard, threw a big high lob from way out past the top of the key right as the horn was going down. And I remember I out-jumped everybody and got it and laid it in at the horn. So I scored the winning bucket as a freshman against our biggest rival in a win or go home situation. So yes, that was a big, big memory for me. Yeah, great memory, absolutely. And we went on and won the district the next night and finished the year 25-10. We had been 6-26 the year before and finished 25-10 the next year.
Wow. Well, you kept winning and winning for the record books. McCreary County had 112 wins against only 25 losses as you moved on through your senior year, 2 30-win seasons. You know, you're a freshman and you get in that first region tournament, and probably, you know, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, man, you know, we've got a shot. We may make this thing, because you, just like all other boys growing up in our state, hey, we want to get the Sweet 16. Absolutely. You know, we want to win this region and get the Sweet 16. And so let's go into what I think was a pretty powerful McCreary County team in your sophomore year. In your freshman year, did you advance to the semis, or did you?
We made it to the semis.
Even then, Final Four, one. You know,
we lost by 7 to Laurel County in the semis.
Yeah. Now tell us about your sophomore season and how strong a team you had, and kind of how that played along.
My sophomore year, we went from 25-10 the year before, and we lost 3 seniors, 2 that played a lot. So we had the core of that team back, and now they were seniors. We had like 8 seniors on the team, and they had been through the low times and had started experiencing success. But you can believe the Sweet 16 was that team's goal. And we really felt like that we were going to win the region. That was what we practiced for every day. And we got off to a great start. We played a tougher schedule. We played up in the Ashland Invitational, and we happened to draw Louisville Central the first game, state champs. And we played them within about 8 till about 3 minutes to go in the third, and they were just so big they ended up putting us away by about 20. But we learned a lot from that game right there. We learned that we really could compete against top quality teams, and because they were, as I said, a state champion that year. And so we won our district again that year, and we win our opener in the region, and we're playing Danville, who preseason was picked to win the region. We were picked number 2 preseason, and we blew out to about a 15-point lead in the second quarter. And I remember getting, I think it was my it was my second or third foul right before, well, it was about midway through the second quarter, and I had to come out. And I know a couple of those fouls were just block shots, and it was one of those reaction calls, and I never touched anybody. I just blocked it and got a foul call. So I'm sitting, and anyway, we go into the half. We still led. We were up maybe 6 or something. I don't remember exactly, but they had cut into the lead. Daniel had a fine team, and we come back out in the third, and ended up getting another big lead. And I ended up getting another foul or two and had to set again. So I didn't play much of the third quarter, and come back out in the fourth, and I get my 5th foul, and I'm setting. So I didn't play, but about a couple of minutes in the third. Didn't play all the second quarter either, and I didn't play but about maybe 3 minutes into the fourth. That game goes into double overtime, so I don't get to play either overtime. And we lose that game on a Hail Mary, as I was mentioning earlier, from a kid just inside the 10-second line, not in the middle of the court, but on the sideline almost. And I can just see him right now, off one leg, let it go and nailed that thing at the horn, and we get beat 60-58. So our bubble was broken, burst in two. It was just our hearts were broken. It was there was our great chance, we thought, to do something, because we felt like if we got there, we could win a game or two at least. And the next night, in the finals, Monticello, who we had beaten 3 times, beat Danville in the regional championship game. And Monticello had our region was strong. Monticello had a good team. And I'm friends with about everybody that played on that team. I love it when I run into them. They just nearly won their opener. I think they played Newport Catholic, I believe, and it was a close game. And so that just solidified our thinking that, if we could have got there, maybe we could have made some noise up there. Yeah.
We all do tend to remember those losses almost more than we remember so many of the wins. But I think in your case, I'm going to think that probably you took that on as extra motivation. As we go into your junior year, now we're talking about Tim Stevens becoming a 2-time All-State first-team basketball player, an All-American. Ultimately, you're second in the Mr. Basketball voting. Darrell Griffith from Male High School, who also graduated in 1976, went on to lead the University of Louisville to a national championship in 1980. He was Mr. Basketball, and Tim, you were runner-up for Mr. Basketball. So coming out of that loss, how did you bear down that spring, summer, fall? I mean, and I know you're also a big-time baseball player, so you might throw that in there, but I'm just thinking maybe that you hit it real hard and began to live in the gym a good bit and really saw that you could do something with this basketball.
Well, I'll be honest, I did play baseball in the summer. We had a coaching change. So I had a new coach coming in my junior year. We were 25-10 and 30-5, and my high school coach got fired. School politics.
My goodness.
And so I had another coach coming in that had been at McCreary once before. And I loved Coach Eckler that they had fired. I thought, how do you go 55-15 and get fired, And a lot of us returning players felt the same way. Of course, we lost all those seniors. We had, like I said, about 8. So we didn't know what to expect, to be honest with you, that junior season. But my coach that came in, he began to immediately opening up the gym after he got there, but he didn't get there until right before school started. So all that summer basically was kind of in limbo. I played all kinds of basketball on my own because, again, I love to play. And so even at the time, I grew up playing outdoors on a blacktop court And that's where I tell everybody I learned to play. My team doctor at UK told me after I had my knee surgery, he found out I'd been going over to the Seton Center and playing in the summer up there at UK, and he got on to me and he said, that right there is probably why your knees are like they are. You spent too many hours on that blacktop court out your grade school. I would rather shoot ball on my grade school court than I would in the gym, so I didn't go in the gym that much until my coach got here. But I spent a lot of hours shooting. And to be honest, we had mixed emotions about this new coach. And I knew some of the guys that had played for him, so I wasn't getting any. Most of them had left the county, so they weren't really around for a while to let me know much about him. And I remember when school started, my old coach was still at our school, and so was the new coach. So it was a little tense around there. And finally, my old coach accepted the coaching position at Somerset and left. And we had our first practice after whenever you could start. And me and a friend of mine skipped practice and went squirrel hunting.
Wow.
And I think that was our way of saying, you all that are the powers that be did our coach dirty.
Yeah. You just had such a close attachment, to your former coach.
So the next day at school, the new coach called me in his office, and he had a heart-to-heart talk with me. I hadn't really spoken with him before much, and we walked around in the gym some, and he convinced me, and rightfully so, that what had happened, he wasn't behind that, and but he had seen us play earlier in my career. I think he was there when we played Lynch High School, because he was coaching at Cumberland, and so when Lynch came here to play, I believe he was there that night, my sophomore year. But anyway, that talk did me a world of good, because I realized that this new coach wasn't my enemy. He didn't do my old coach wrong, and I'm going to tell you something. That man became one of the dearest people in my life. And I think his name is Ralph Roberts. He just passed away this summer, and I spoke at his funeral. Several of us did. It was in Frankfurt. No, was it no, it was in Versailles. But that man, and this is to take nothing away from Coach Eckler, or that man taught me, and it was at the point that I was ready to learn more. He taught me more about ball handling skills, how to read a defensive player, a team defense, how to take advantages of weaknesses. He just had a keen insight, and he got right in my head and taught me what I needed to know. And like I said, he became one of the most instrumental people in my life, and I think a great coach, honestly. And it took a while to get his style in. Mm-hmm. My previous coach we were more of a full court press, fast break offense. We had 4 double-figure scores. We scored a lot of points. Initially, this was a little bit different tempo. It took a little bit of getting used to. He really emphasized defense, which I needed, and so he taught me a lot about that side of the ball, and so we go into the year still not really knowing how it's going to play out, and it took a little while. But instead of beating teams 75-51, we were beating them 50-38. But we were beating them, and we were racking up wins and wins and wins, and so we still ended up that year with another district title.
Yes.
And we make it to the semifinals of the region that year, and we get beat by Pulaski on their floor by 2.
Wow.
And you mentioned earlier we remember those losses better than we do the wins.
Yes.
When we were just talking, yeah, I missed 2 shots at the end of that game, could have tied that game up, that I had to really rush to get them off before the horn sounded. The first one was in the right-hand corner. We were throwing it in, and I caught it because it was, the horn was like 1.1 something, 2 seconds, 1 point something, whatever. And I got it off so quick, it hit the rim, and when it came off, somebody knocked it out of bounds, and we got it back. So I had a second attempt, and I missed the second one. And I had a difficulty getting over that. I really did. I struggled over that. It hurt me. We were 27-5. I think we had a better team than Pulaski County. They got beat pretty good in the finals by Lincoln. And Lincoln was one of our 5 losses. They beat us in a double overtime game by 2 earlier in the regular season. So that would have been another knockdown, drag out, you might say. It would have been either way, I think.
Well, you know, that type of adversity is often what fuels the fire to become a great player, if you take it in that way and let it fuel the fire going on into your senior year. So you're a returning all-state basketball player. You've got one last shot. You've probably got a few boyhood dreams that we're going to talk about. Of course, you're signing with the University of Kentucky and being on the 1978 national championship team. But prior to that, boyhood dreams to make it to Sweet 16. Now we got one more shot to do it. How do we get it done in the senior year? Where you average, let me tell the folks, I believe 35 points a game, 35.6 points a game, 18 rebounds per game. McCreary County, here we go.
How do we get it done? We had a great coach. I had a team full of unselfish teammates. We were small. Our starting guards were 5'5" and 5'8". And I guess you would have called me a forward, but my coach changed his whole style of offensive attack that year, and I just played. But the other forward was 6 feet tall, a junior, and a good shooter. He averaged probably close to 15 or 16 points a game on our team that year. We had a 6'2" center that was a junior, and he hadn't played before. My coach went over there and recruited him out of the hall. To be honest with you, I don't think anybody but us believed we could even win the district. And we were inexperienced as well.
Yeah, you lost so much.
Myself and another senior guard were the only 2 that really got playing time much the prior season. So we didn't have anybody tall on the bench either. I was by far our tallest kid. And, I didn't weigh 170 pounds soaking wet then. And we just went to war every day. That's all I can tell you. We just practiced our butts off every single day, and our coach ran after he kept us in the gym long hours. We ran wind sprints by the astronomical numbers. He said for us to win, we had to be in the best shape.
Yes.
We were in the best shape. And we didn't take any days off. We practiced 7 days a week till the season started. And when we got home from a road game, we sat in the bleachers and he critiqued how our mistakes before we would ever even go out and get in our parents' vehicle to go home. They'd sit out there for an hour or two. But he was kind of fanatical. He was a perfectionist. And I'll never forget something he said to me our opening game that year. It's kind of like what happened my freshman year with my other coach. Our season opened at home, and we had a pretty good lead early in that game. And I remember throwing the ball inside to that junior a couple of times in a row that I mentioned that hadn't played. And the reason I did that was because he was open and I wanted him to catch that ball and try to turn around and do something positive. I wanted him to have an opportunity. Well, my coach took me out after the second one, and he set me down beside of me, and he looked over at me. I'm sitting on this side, but I could feel his eyes burning the side of my face, seemed like. And he looked at me and he said, "Son, I want to know why you're passing up shots." And I said, "Coach, I just don't want to shoot it every time." He sat there a second and he got right next to me and he said a choice word or two. And he said, "If we're going to win, you can't pass up shots." He said, "Do you understand me?" I said, "Yes, sir." So I doubt if I passed up another shot that year. And so anyway, that told me, I had made it clear to him, I didn't want to be a ball hog. But those teammates I had, they embraced that. I never had a one of them say anything to me about shooting too much. And one of my signature moves in high school was a turnaround jump shot. A lot of times I would jump and not even have my back. I'd have my back maybe to the basket, but I'd jump high and I would spin, and I could get up high enough that I could shoot it uncontested by doing that. And that's the way I scored a whole lot of my baskets. Plus the ball handling drills that my coach had taught me. I was able to slash and drive a whole lot, but a majority of my shots were deep. Nobody got jealous over that. I don't know if that would happen today. It would with a special group of kids, but that group was special. We were one, even though we were little, inexperienced, and I think we had to be. I know everybody knew me. I know that.
Of course.
But I don't think we were given the respect as a team as what we ended up being. I'll say that for sure.
You know, you look at the 7 days of practice, that, like you say, the analytical mind of the coach, and it paid off on one great big night because you beat Casey County in the regional championship game, 63-57. Yeah. What about that feeling? How did the county react? Did you have a celebration coming back home, or
yes.
What do you remember about that regional championship deal?
That was. Well, can I say one other thing that led up to that?
Indeed.
All that time we had spent that I've discussed here, we went to our final regular season game at Lincoln County. They hadn't had their new school yet. They were playing at the old Waynesburg Memorial High School. We got beat. We didn't play well, didn't shoot well. I didn't shoot well. That was on Friday night. It was either Friday night or Saturday night, but we had practice scheduled for Sunday. And we show up to practice Sunday. He had us as we come in and sit down in the bleachers. And he walked out there when we all got there, and he said, "Boys," he said, "I think," I'm just paraphrasing, "I think that we're getting a little stale." He said, "I want you to go back home, and I don't want to see you for 3 days."
Wow. Right before the district tournament. Yeah.
That took some guts.
Yes, it did.
But it also it also tells you his insight as to what needed to be done for us to be back on top again, as the way we had been playing up till that point. And when we came back in there for practice after those 3 days, it was just like we had had the weight of the world off our backs, and we had something to prove. And by the good grace of God, we proved it. You know. So getting back to your question about the feeling after we won, total euphoria. In my mind, and I know it was in those other boys' minds too, but I had been through it at a younger age with those older kids that I played with, and having our bubble busted. In my mind, the sense of accomplishment was astronomical. That gym at Pulaski County was packed. I'm sure all of McCreary County was there. And I've got a picture somewhere of the crowd picking me up and carrying me around. And I can remember saying to them, I remember this happening, let me down, let me down. I didn't want to be, it happened a lot, but I really didn't cherish being singled out. You know, I love my teammates and was as happy for them as for me. But in my mind, that sense of accomplishment it probably meant more to me than anybody because of what I'd been through as a player my first 3 years. Yes. And you talking about a celebration, yeah, when we got on that school bus to come home, there was a line, back then there wasn't a whole lot of straight stretches between here and Somerset. They've improved the road now. But the longest one was really long. And you couldn't see the front or end of it. Everybody was there. And they threw together a celebration in our high school cafeteria. I don't know how they got it ready. I don't know. Maybe they was anticipating.
That very night?
That very night.
Wow, they had so much pride in the county, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Oh my!
And we had a great time. I tell you, I've told high school kids that I've coached. You know, when it come tournament time, that I'd say, listen, I've been a blessed person. I've played on a state tournament team. And as you mentioned 2 or 3 times, high school players in Kentucky, Sweet 16 is the ultimate goal. And I know winning it, I can imagine what winning it would, I can imagine, but getting there for us, we weren't just happy to be there, but getting there was the ultimate basically for us. And I would tell players, I've also been lucky enough to have been on a national championship in college. And I said, you're going to think I'm crazy when I say this, but they're equal in my life. High school basketball is like a religion in Kentucky.
Yes, sir.
And everybody that's got any kind of an athletic mind or ability has a chance to play high school basketball. It may not be as good as they would like, but there's an opportunity there for many more people than to do what I was able to be a part of in college. So cherish this right here. I'd say, listen, there's a lot of kids out there that would give anything to play high school sports that are handicapped or have a disease or something like that. Don't waste your day in the gym every day. Make yourself better. I tell my grandson that, try to make yourself get better every day. And once you accomplish something, whether it's winning the district, if that's what you are capable of doing, okay. But when you accomplish something that's your ultimate goal, I don't care if it's a national championship or a regional championship, it means something to you. And so I know that sounds a little odd maybe to say that, but that's how important I think high school sports are.
I couldn't agree more. You ran into a tough first-round opponent in Paducah Tillman.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, you shined in that game. I believe you scored 32. I read one account that said you only pretty much touched the ball 8 times. You were got to shoot 8 times in the second half. You made 7 out of 8 shots. Just another of those gimmicky defenses that you had to deal with. I'm sure box chasers, the whole 9 yards, and everything. And of course, you ran up against a super athletic team there, but and big, long, okay, yeah. So, but I still think you put on a good show, without question.
Well, I appreciate that. I never thought we were beat until the final horn.
Mm-hmm.
The score I remember was 44-38 them late in the third quarter, and in my mind, we were going to win that game. We ended up losing 75-60. But I do know this: that the experience was great, and even though it was a loss, I know every one of the kids on that team laid their heart out there. We all gave everything we had. I think we got all we had in us out of us. I think our coach was to credit for that. On that particular night, we just ran into a bigger and better team, but we gave them a handful for 3 quarters.
Absolutely. Well, the most coveted individual award in the Kentucky State Basketball Tournament is the Ted Sanford Award. Mr. Sanford was the first commissioner of the Kentucky High School Athletic Association, I believe, from about 1947 to 1972, if I'm not mistaken. And then the Courier Journal established the Ted Sanford Award, and that goes to the one basketball player in the Sweet 16 who's the most outstanding citizenship, basketball ability, academic achievement, and sportsmanship. And in one game's time, you were named the Ted Sanford Award winner. Were you there on Saturday night to receive that award?
I was. I didn't know what it was.
Yeah. And did you have to come out of the stands and walk down there and get it? Yeah. That's pretty cool.
I had been told until that day, I didn't know what that was. I was told by my coach that I was going to be receiving an award that night, and he told me what it was called. And he told me those 4 things that you just told me, just a little bit before I go out there. And so at the time, I knew this, that it was about more than just playing ball. And the way I equated it, it was more like the way I had tried to live my life. So I was proud as I could be to get it. And then after I got it and had more time to reflect on it, I guess I'm even a little more proud now, Sure. But I was very, very honored to get that award. I'm very thankful for that.
Well, and of course, then with the culmination of the season, you're again a 2-time All-State basketball player, Lexington Herald leader, Courier Journal. You're an All-American. Now you're going to hit the All-Star circuit. We just want to touch on that just a little bit, and then of course touch on your recruitment process and being a national champion at the University of Kentucky. But I believe you played in the Kentucky Derby Festival and of course in the Kentucky Indiana All-Star Series. And of course, let's reiterate that you were the runner-up for the Mr. Basketball Award in 1976. Any recollection and playing with some of those other great players that you want to share from the All-Star circuit that you got on there?
Well, yeah. Of course, I'd heard of all of them. When the Derby Classic was played before the Kentucky-Indiana series. It was played before school was out.
Right.
And I remember checking in the motel and going down to find my room, and I met Darrell Griffith walking the other direction. And he called me by my name, which I didn't figure anybody up there even knew who I was. He called me by my name, and that was when we met. We practiced for a few days, and And of course, Daryl and Bobby, I became good friends
Bobby Turner.
with both of them. Rudy Macklin.
Absolutely, LSU.
And Anthony Jackson.
Wow.
And me from Kentucky. The others were from Indiana. And Brian Walker from Indiana. Mike Woodson.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
If I thought long enough, I could come up with their other three. Mike Miller was one of them. But anyway, that was a great experience for me. They had a dunk contest that had all kinds of people there. They had a one-on-one tournament. Of course, I entered the one-on-one tournament, and I had to play Rudy the first game, and he got the ball first. Of course, Rudy was a lefty also, and had such a great career at LSU.
Yes, indeed.
And I had the misfortune to play in him the first game, and he scored. He took me inside and scored on me. So I missed my first jumper out front, bobbled in and out. He rebounded it, took it out, and brought it back in there and scored on me again. We were just going to 3 baskets. My second possession, same thing. I made a move on him, got open, shot it, bobbled it in and out. He rebounded it, and he goes in there and scores. He beats me 3-0, so I'm out of the tournament. So I didn't like that too much. I wanted to win it. But anyway, actually, I take that. That was my first game. No, it might have been. That was my second game. I beat somebody in the first game, a big kid. My memory's not as vivid as it used to be. But anyway, that was quite a thrill. We lost that game. Kentucky, Indiana lost that game to the U.S. All-Stars, like 130-something to 120-something. It was a really good game, and I had a good game. The thing I remember the most about it was the introductions. Me having already committed to Kentucky. I mean, there was more people in that arena than lived in this county.
So the ovation you got?
That good. I had goosebumps all over me.
Oh, yeah.
And man, I can't believe this. They were standing up, and you couldn't hear nothing. And boy, did that mean a lot to me. And Jay Scheider, one of my future roommate, was on the other team.
Okay.
And I hadn't met him yet, but I ended up, I think, with 18 that game, and I felt like I proved that I deserved to be there anyway.
Well, we've also had I think maybe some call it the Summer World Series of high school basketball, the famous state pride event, the Kentucky Indiana All-Star Basketball Series, a game in Indianapolis, and when you played, of course, a game at Freedom Hall. What about a little something on that, and then we'll move on to some get you beyond your high school days.
Okay, I don't know how this keeps happening. Indiana has dominated that so much, and our team was a great team.
Yes, indeed.
We got beat at home there in Louisville in a pretty close game, and but leading up to that, I found out that week, Daryl Griffith, we had to be up there for like a couple of weeks practice. And I found out there that week, our birthdays fell during that practice time right there. Daryl and he was Mr. Basketball, also National High School Player of the Year that year, if I'm not mistaken. And I was runner-up, and we were both born the exact same day, June 16th, 1958. And so we had our birthday that same day. We didn't have anything special or anything, but I thought that was kind of ironic, and he did too, that we were both born the very same day. But anyway, I got to be with those guys a little more then because we were there longer. So I was a big Daryl Griffith fan from the original meeting with him on. but especially after going up there and practicing with him every day there for a week or two. So, and I became good friends too with Bobby, and all of them. Shoot, when we played LSU, and at home, I come around the corner there to go toward our dressing room, and LSU was coming in all the way down at the other end, and I heard somebody say, "Hey, Tim," and I looked down there, and it was Rudy. You know, it's just I don't know. It's just some good memories of those times. I was sure happy to participate in both of those. I wish we'd have won them, but.
No doubt. Well, we talk about the boyhood dream of playing in the Sweet 16. There's another boyhood dream of Kentuckians throughout the state of Kentucky, and that's to wear the big blue and play for the University of Kentucky. Now, are you one who had that dream? And if you were like me, you listened to Kaywood Ledford growing up. Was that who you were growing up?
Let me tell you, I had I had a papa that lived in Cincinnati. When he passed away, they gave me his transistor radio. It was a little red radio, had a silver face on it. It wouldn't pick up much down here, but I could get WHAS in Louisville, and at that time they played Kentucky. Kaywood was on WHAS in Louisville. I lay in there in a bed. If it was a late game, I listened to every game Kentucky ever played. When I was a kid, I made a scrapbook on Kentucky players.
Wow.
And yes, did I want to go to Kentucky? I wanted to go to Kentucky.
Did you have a hero or two that you remember?
Well, anybody had that name on there was.
That's true.
But sure, Dan Issel,
Yeah.
Mike Pratt, Larry Steele, Louis Dampier, who I've come to know afterwards. I love Tom Parker because he was left-handed. I love Kevin Greavy because he was left-handed. I mean, yeah, I could tell you about everything. Ronnie Lyons, I became good friends with Ronnie over the years because he played softball and so did I. And they were all heroes to me, believe me.
So when you started getting the letter from UK and it became recruiting time and we want to get you signed with UK, but what about other considerations which you may not have taken too seriously, but I'm sure you had a lot of people beating the door down though?
Well, I had a lot of opportunities, but I was up front with them, and a lot of them would ask me.
Yes.
Because
they didn't want to spend so much time recruiting you if they didn't think they were in the running.
So I would tell them if Kentucky offers me, I'm going to take it. I grew up a Wildcat fan. I'm a Kentucky kid. I want to play for Kentucky if they want me. Mm-hmm. Some of them still kept coming. And had I not chosen to go to Kentucky, I would have likely ended up at South Carolina. Probably Frank McGuire was their coach then, and
he was the ultimate recruiter, I do believe, wasn't he?
He had the assistant that recruited me became a dear friend of mine. He was at my house one night eating supper. My mom used to cook for them people when they'd come. And my mom had something wrong with her where she got choked periodically. And Lord, she couldn't hardly get her breath. And she had that episode that night that Coach Greg Blatt was his name. We were at the supper table. And my mom had one of those spells. She couldn't breathe. And I got up there and worked on her and finally got her breath. And Greg Blatt got on the phone, wasn't no cell phones, he got on our phone and called a doctor friend of his in Lexington of all places. And got my mom in to see this specialist. And we took my mom up there and they did some kind of surgery on her that took care of that.
Correct. What about that?
So I was kind of indebted to that man
Yes,
for what he had done,
Yeah.
And anyway, and he was a nice man too, a good person.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if I had other schools that had I not got offered, that I would have considered, yeah, there were others, but I would put Carolina at the top, basically because of that.
Right.
But UT, Tennessee, down here not far from Knoxville. Rodney Woods was a GA then, and he was one that recruited me for there. So, to be honest with you, in those days, Tennessee and Kentucky, when Tennessee got so bad, that rivalry dipped just a little bit because it was a given we were going to beat them, because there was many years it was that way. But when I was in high school, that wasn't that way. They were good. Ernie and Bernie
show.
Yeah,
right.
Mike Jackson. They had a heck of a good team.
Yes, indeed.
And so that was that probably would have been the last place I would have went.
Exactly.
But yeah, probably.
Well, with the dream comes true the day you take a pen and sign that piece of paper. You got to remember that day, by golly.
I do. It was a school day. Coach Hall and Coach Parsons came down, picked me up at school. The kids at school, who's driving that big blue car? And all that. And the word got out. So they brought me home. Mom had breakfast ready for them. And brought out that paper.
Wow.
And I signed my name. And Coach Hall got on the phone and started calling the TV stations and stuff. And then in the paper the next day, it was a big deal about I'd signed at Kentucky.
That's awesome.
But they didn't have to do anything. But when he came to see me, and he didn't have to do anything but say he wanted me.
Yeah, that's super.
Yeah.
Well, we want to talk a little about that 1978 championship team and that sort of thing. Of course, I read that Coach Hall said our outside shooting is going to improve a good bit. We were a little disappointing last year, but we got Tim Stevens and Jay Scheidler coming in, the Kentucky long rifle, you might say. You blow out your knee. I hate to have to ask you about it, but why don't you share that with us about how that dang thing happened?
That's one of the 5 worst days of my life.
No doubt. No doubt.
The day that happened, I actually, if you think back on that, my freshman season, we used to go around the state and play 3 inter-squad games. And in those 3 inter-squad games my freshman year, I was opposite of Jack Gibbons, All SEC Defensive Player of the year before. I averaged 17 a game. He averaged 19. We were in the top 5 in the country and had played 9 games. No, we had played 11 games, and I had played in 9 of them and was averaging about 9 minutes a game. My shooting percentage wasn't good because most of my minutes were late in the game after sitting a long time, and I just a little bit enamored with that. I didn't like the shooting background in Rupp at that time. All the seats now are blue. They used to be orange, pastel, purple.
I sure did.
You couldn't even pick the rim out good. That's why I always loved Freedom Hall. It was so dark in the seating area that rim just popped. And I don't know, I just had some trouble adjusting to that.
And we might say, Tim, just for the sake of history, that when you were recruited in your senior year, that was the last year for Memorial Coliseum that UK played in, yes. I do believe. Yes. And then you were among the very first team that played in Rupp Arena. But go ahead, you're so right about that. It had to be a really tough shooter's background, no doubt.
So I got to play in the first game I ever played in Rupp Arena. We played Wisconsin.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Beat them 70-63. I remember I got my first shot on an out of bounds play and made it. That team was really good, and me playing 9 minutes a game as a freshman, I was tickled to death. I was happy, and in fact, the the game before I got hurt, I played 20 minutes against Ole Miss.
Wow.
And in practice that week, I spent a lot of reps with the first team. I'm not saying I would have been a starter. I'm just saying I was happy with my role, my placement. And we were scrimmaging toward the end of the game. It was a full court drill is what it was. And you remember Jim Andrews, I know. Jim was a grad assistant my freshman year. And we were running a fast break, and Truman Clater, TC, had the ball in the middle of the floor, and I was on the left wing running just as hard as I could go. And the only guy back to defend us was Jim Andrews, because he dressed out and played with us a lot. And when Truman threw me the pass, my intent was to jump stop and go off at both feet, because I'm getting ready to try to score over a 6'11" man. And so I wanted to shield the ball with my inside hand. So I wasn't going to go in there off 1 foot. I wanted to go off 2, running full speed. I'll catch that ball, plant my feet, and my left knee goes straight out to the side. And one of the managers was sitting under the basket right there, and he hollered, "Coach, I heard it pop." I mean, plain as day, Tony Sosby. I remember him saying it. I'm laying there, and I just got to tell you, I'm thinking to myself, I don't think I can come back from this. I can't believe this. You could have took a .45 Magnum and shot me in the knee, and I don't think it would have hurt any worse. And I couldn't straighten it. Everybody rushed over there to me. They sent and got a gurney or whatever you call it, brought it in there on wheels and lifted me up and put me on that, and finally got it straightened, my legs straightened out. It was huge. And they got me in Coach Parsons, I believe's car. And Jay left practice with me, because we were roommates, Jay Schuyler, who, by the way, we are close friends to this day. Well, that whole team's close. But anyway, they took me in Coach Harry Bailey's office. And Coach Bailey was the guy. You remember when the plane crashed on the recruiting trip to see Derek Horde play? And Joe Dean was on the plane. Do you remember that happening? We were playing at IU that night. The pilot was Dr. Harry Bailey, who lost his life in that wreck. He had his own small plane, I guess. Yeah. But I remember Jay was kind of holding my shoulders down, and Coach Parsons had a hold of my ankles, and Dr. Bailey stuck a darn big needle with a big old end on it, and he just hit that skin. It filled up with blood, and he put another one on there and done it again. And like I said, I began to think, I don't know how you come back from this. I just don't know. But I tried to.
Sure, absolutely.
I tried to. It was mentioned to me just in briefing that I might ought to consider redshirt and give myself a year to recoup. But if I had a redshirted, that would have been the championship season. There wasn't no way I was going to redshirt. And I worked as hard as I could on getting it back, but it took a long time. In all honesty, I'd have to be honest in saying that I was never exactly the same.
You always get swelling and everything.
Yeah, I'd have to get injections pretty often, but now by my junior year, I was over it as far as being able to run and jump again. But at that time, well, I ended up starting one game on that championship team, and we were 30-2. I played, I think, in 22 games. But there were some games that I actually were were taken out of the mix by the team doctor because of what my knee was doing at the time. Like we went to Knoxville to play in the tournament against Florida State, and I'd done been told I wouldn't be playing. I dressed and kind of went through warm-ups, and that happened to be the game we brought those guys. Dwayne Casey, LaVon, and Freddie came in and sparked us.
Kentucky was down big at halftime, and Coach Hall made the...
Hugh Durham coaching Florida State, I read where he said, "Who are these guys? I never even heard of these guys." But they were players.
Well, let's think about that, the good times of that season, being ranked number one, and a lot of pressure. I want to hear it from a guy on the team. Or maybe I shouldn't jump ahead and say that joy is defined in winning a national championship, but how about that tag of being the team that knew no joy and all this and that? How did y'all feel going through that season and knowing the national championship was your goal, but remember how they were acting out there in St. Louis, said this team doesn't have any fun and all that?
We laugh at how stupid that was.
For sure.
We had all kinds of fun. We were just business-like when it came time to be business-like.
That's right.
But we had as much, I don't know how you could have any more fun than we had, but I'll tell you one daggone thing, we have more fun now than them teams do, because we have a reunion every 5 years, and it's awesome.
That's right. That's right.
So that was a special year. I'm so thankful to have been a part of that. And all this time, you would be probably surprised to know how often we text, call, birthdays, holidays.
Fantastic.
I mean, that was a great group of men, buddy. It really great leadership. Those four seniors have been so close as freshmen.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
They were super leaders. They led by example. The rest of us followed suit. Practices were war every day. I mean, they were war every day. And that's why we ended up being what we were.
Well, it sounds to me like you played for a pretty tough, demanding, outstanding high school basketball coach in Ralph Roberts. I know you played for a pretty tough, demanding guy in Coach Joe B. Hall.
Yeah.
How would you tell me about that in terms of even preseason conditioning and, like you say, the wars in practice? How would you kind of term Coach Hall in those regards?
The preseason conditioning program up there at Kentucky was pretty much. It was. I don't know. I can remember hearing that the intensity of that was well known by every school in the conference and everything. They would allude to our conditioning program, and it would consist of 3 days a week. We would run from Memorial over to the track. That's just your warm up, and then we run those 220s, and you had to run them in a certain time or rerun them, and you finally, by the end of the conditioning program, you'd add one each day. You'd get up to about 16. You had to run each one under 32 seconds.
Wow.
And some of the big guys had a lot of trouble doing that. They really did. But then that you were only half done, because then you went in the weight room. And Pat Etcheberry put you through, heck, it was like an NFL weightlifting room, I think. And so we worked ourselves hard running and lifting on those 3 days. And then after you finally got your 12th exercise, your 5th set done, you still had to walk back to the dorm or to Memorial. So it was a rough conditioning program. I remember at the end of one year, Coach Parsons, he named 5 of us Ironmen. I happened to be one of them. I was proud of that for not missing any.
And then as you got into the season and the daily practices and
Practices were
tough stuff, huh?
well, yeah. It was like I said, it was war. You didn't do anything halfway. You did every drill as quickly and as strongly as you could do it. The when you scrimmaged, it was like you were playing for the title. I mean, it was a serious deal every day. And as I said, we didn't take days off.
You know, one more memory I think about. I wish I could have been at the airport when y'all came back. I've seen all the pictures. Tell me, you talk about feeling like a rock star, like you were saying when you got introduced in some of those All-Star games, but you come back to Lexington Airport. Paint that scene for me.
That's pure bedlam, man. When we came in there, they took us off the plane, took us into the airport, led us out to this little balcony, and all the floor space down below us was just people, just shoulder to shoulder, and it was pretty amazing. I have like 4 good friends from down here, and they tell me about that a lot.
They were there?
They were there. They were listening to the game. They had K Wood on after the game, and K Wood told them, said, yeah, at the end he said the plane is supposed to arrive back in Lexington at such and such a time. And one of my buddies said, I looked at the other and said, well, are we going or not? Let's go. And so they were up there, and they couldn't get to me. But this one of them said, I couldn't get you, but I could get to Fred Cowan. And I said, and Freddie hugged me, he said. I mean, it was awesome. It really was. They ended up, destroying the daggone airport, if you remember. But then we went to, if I'm not mistaken, they took us to Memorial that night. If it wasn't that night, it was the next. We had a celebration there in Memorial. I think it was that night. I can't remember exactly. But they had us all up there on a stage, and we all got to say something, and it's just a dream come true. It's just, what can I say?
Well, when I think of dreams, and so good to be with you, Tim, you dreamed to be in the Sweet 16, and there you are. You make it to the Sweet 16, 2-time All-State. You dream to play for the University of Kentucky, and hard work makes it happen. And then when you're a college basketball player at that level, we got a shot. When we're big-time D1, boy, wouldn't it be nice to win a national championship? And you did that. It's a life of basketball, like you say, that so few can even begin to imagine. So as the shooter you were, I got one final question for you. 35.6 as a senior. Basketball has changed in one dramatic way since that time, at least one dramatic way. It's called the three-point line. What would Tim Stevens have done with a three-point line, let alone in college too? But and think about your value. Of course, you can't do any better than to sign a scholarship with the University of Kentucky. But can you imagine if there had been a three-point line? Tell me a little bit about your range. And honestly, it's the truth. Don't be so humble. What would you have done with a three-point line?
Well, I'd averaged more points than I did. I put it that way.
That's a given, isn't it?
Occasionally, I will run into someone, and it's not always here, but it's a sports fan somewhere. I've been asked this dozens of times, I bet you. If they had a three-point line, how many points would you have scored in high school? And I don't know, but
6 to 8. I mean, I gotta believe, especially when you're being pushed out a little bit and they're defending you the way they are.
Yeah.
I gotta think you'd have knocked down high school 6 to 8 a game. I believe that.
I don't doubt that, probably, because, like as I said earlier, the majority of my shots were deep.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't want to put a number on anything, but I would have averaged quite a bit more, I think.
Do you wish there'd been a three-point line?
Oh, do I? Do I? Yes, sir. Yep.
That'd been all right, wouldn't it?
Been all right.
Well, one other thing that I think is so cool about our state is, especially out in a lot of our counties around the state, when McCreary County goes to the Sweet 16 in 1976, it's never forgotten, is it, Tim?
No. It's not forgotten. There's only been 4 teams from this county that's went to the Sweet 16. 46, 64, my brother was a mainstay, a great player on that team. My team in 76. In 83, my brother coached that team.
Wow.
So 3 of the 4 years, my brother and I were parts of those. That really means a lot to him and me.
Sure.
But yeah, the boys that were on that team, it's like we did something.
Yes,
you know,
indeed.
we did something.
That's
and
exactly right.
and not to be patting ourselves too much on the back, but buddy, we're proud of it. And I feel like that the community, you know, that was 50 years ago. A lot of people that followed us then have passed on. But I get stories from some of those kids. Kids will tell me, you know, my grandma will tell me she went to every game you ever played in high school. I hear stuff like that a lot. So that fills me up with humility and pride at the same time, if that makes any sense. So yeah, we did something.
Well, without question, Tim, you certainly did do something. I congratulate you and commend you. It's just been fabulous to sit down and talk with you today, rekindle these memories. Really enjoyed it.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate you thinking of me to do this, and I've really enjoyed it myself. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. So I'm Randy Mills as we conclude. What a fabulous conversation with Tim Stevens, a guy who's still in the top 15 all-time scorers in the state of Kentucky, the number 2 all-time rebounder in Kentucky. Quite a guy, a University of Kentucky Wildcat national champion. Thanks, everyone. Very enjoyable.
And before we close today's show, a big thank you to another of our Sports History Now supporters, Michael and Teresa Carr. The support of friends like Michael and Teresa helps us continue to bring Sports History Now to life.